All right, here we are with John Balewski, manager of operations at Westview Water Authority. John, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well let's dive right into it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What was your background? What led you into the water industry?
I moved to Pittsburgh a long time ago, and I graduated high school. When I moved when I was a junior in high school, and I graduated, and I went to Pitt for engineering. At that point, I was just looking for a job, any job, and I ended up landing with a local firm that did water and wastewater, strictly water and wastewater, and it was a job that turned into the career, right? When I got into it, I started realizing what was involved in the water and wastewater industry and all the problems we had locally back in the 90s with sewage. We still have it, but it was a lot worse back in the 90s. And it's just, I grew with the company and moved all the way up, got my professional engineering license, and have been helping clients and now working for a utility directly.
And what didn't you fully understand about the water industry when you began your career? And then on the flip side, since you started your career, what have you seen change the most?
I think like most, the vast majority of the world, you don't really, you turn on the faucet and water comes out, you flush the toilet and the water goes away, and you don't worry about everything that happens before or after that. As you get into the field, you learn that there's a lot going on to make those things happen so easily for everybody. And the real goal of the utility is to make sure is to be like that, not be a focus of attention. If people are happy and they're turning on their faucets and they're getting water, that's all I care about. That's great. So, the goal is always to be behind the scenes and no one's asking questions. Everybody's happy. They pay their water bill and they move on. What's changed? Technology, honestly. I started in the 90s. The cell phones didn't exist. Computers were just becoming, in every office when I started out. The Excel spreadsheets, the Word documents, a lot was done by hand before that. And the technology has just changed the amount of information out there. In the past, you'd send somebody out to check a tank level or to turn on a pump or to do any of those things to make sure the water's there, check the quality of the water. Now it's 95% automated.
Yeah. Does it
You can
make
sit
you
at, you can
does
sit at
it
your
make you
desk.
go back and think, oh my God, how did we even do this back then without this technology?
It does a little bit, but it's just the amount of people you
Yeah.
had to have to do the things that the technology does for you now. Nowadays, we have, controls on all our pumps. We have controls on, monitors, analyzers telling us what's in the water, is what's the pH of the water, how much chlorine's in the water, all the different things that we just know it now, and we can make adjustments where at the plants to do that, where you had people running around for a while. When the equipment goes out, you learn what it was like in the old days because you're sending
Yeah.
people everywhere to figure stuff out. You're like, wow, that's a pain.
But how much of the system that people rely on a day-to-day basis was built, decades ago? We hear about, water pipes being around for 30 years plus. What in your region, I know you're working on updating a lot of it. So what's the status on that?
Well, I would tell you that the vast majority of the system is old. It's just how it works. I honestly look back and go, I wonder how they paid for all this stuff
Yeah.
back in the 50s and 1950s, 1960s, when the population started growing like crazy and doing that. A lot of our pipes, we don't feel a pipe is old until it's 50 plus years old.
Okay.
Ductile iron pipe can last for 100 years. Plastic pipe, we don't really know how long it's going to last yet because it hasn't been in the ground for 50 years yet. So a lot of the piping is old, and just because something's old doesn't mean it needs to be replaced. A lot of the treatment plants, I've been doing this for 35 years now, and most of my career has been spent updating and expanding plants, not building new plants. In the 60s and the 70s, all the plants were built and they're still being used. Now we're updating the equipment. We have to do different processes to treat the water from all the different chemicals they want us to remove. In the 70s, they were happy if there was no bacteria in the water.
Yeah.
Not so easy anymore. There's a ton of chemicals that we have to test for and treat. And all that stuff's old. It's been 50, 60, 70 years old, and it's expensive to replace. We replace 10 miles of pipe a year. To replace 20, we'd have to add $20 million to our budget. Could our customers pay for it? They wouldn't be happy, and there's no reason to make them pay for it. So you plan the projects, and you do what needs to be done, but you don't go crazy just because something's old.
Well, speaking of customers, we mentioned how people can so easily take for granted when you turn on your faucet and water comes out, and when you flush a toilet, water goes away. What would surprise customers most about, what happens to keep water flowing reliably?
The main thing would be how many people and how much hands-on there is. The water industry is 24/7. We don't have the operators at our plants. They don't go home. We don't leave them alone for 16 hours a day. They're there all day. Nowadays, it's watching the screens to look at what the analyzers are telling us, what the pumps are telling us. So there's a lot of behind the scenes to make sure, hey, this sensor's reading a little bit higher than trending. We should make a change. So it takes 5 miles, 10 miles of pipe. It takes a while for the change to become effective. But if you don't watch it, then the customer won't even know. It just happens. If they turn on the water at the wrong time, they may get a little blip of chlorine, but next time it's gone. So there's a lot of behind the scenes is how much people are working on it. And when there's a break, how many customers probably sleep through us fixing a break? We get a break at 1:00 in the morning, crews go out, the water's off for 4 hours. They get up to take their shower in the morning, water's back on.
They didn't even know.
They didn't even know. You may turn on the faucet and you get that little air burst for the first to blow the air out of the system. And like, oh, but then the water's there and they're like, okay, they didn't even know.
And they probably don't even know what the air burst is from.
Nope. You're right. I do. Every time I do that at home and my water authority does that, I go, okay, it must have been blowing a hydrant out or they had a break. But it's one blip and you're done. So, but 95% of the time, people don't realize what we're doing. They're just happy to have the water.
And what have you seen in your modernization efforts, more technology you've been mentioning in utilities? What type of modernization efforts have you seen, and what specific examples has Westview Water Authority been adopting?
There's so much. It's all about technology. We have SCADA, which is supervisory control and data acquisition. That's all the information we're getting from all our different sensors throughout the system. So it's everywhere, everything we're doing. We have mapping that's all computer GIS based, is geographic information. So we know where every pipe is. We're building our system to keep as much data handy, so we know when a customer called the last time. We know what their problem was. We know when their meter was replaced. All that information is handy. Lets us do our job much more efficiently. I can't believe in the 70s with our system size, we probably have 3 times the amount of employees we have now.
Yeah.
It's just,
it's so much more efficient. I'm sure the technology and everything helps, being in the Pittsburgh region, especially this past winter, extreme weather, peak demand during that extreme weather because people are home, they're not going to work. Kids aren't going to school. So how does the system continue to function the same capacity during those moments? I
was thinking about some of these questions beforehand, and we had a really severe windstorm about 3-4 weeks ago in Pittsburgh. Power was out for large areas of the Allegheny Beaver County areas, and if you turn on your faucet, it still worked. We lost power at a couple of facilities. We have backup generators to make sure we can pump the water to where it needs to go. We had the blizzard, 15 inches. We had some waterline breaks, but we have waterline breaks quite often just from the age and different things going on. But other than localized issues, there wasn't a whole swath, half the system out of water, like half the power grid was out. It's underground, which makes it a little bit protected from some of the weather, but it all still needs power. It still needs the people to maintain it. We're really conscious about making sure people have the water. Water, we have it in tanks. Doesn't even need to be pumped most times. A lot of times the water is in a 100-foot tall tank and it's just getting pushed through the pipe by gravity. So you don't even need power. But it's an important aspect, the resiliency, the backup, the redundancy, all those different things that are going on. That's one of the reasons I think the authority built the second plant. I was saying that most of the plants are old. The one plant we have, the Beaver County plants, went into service in 2020. It's probably the first water plant of any size built in Allegheny County in 40 years.
Yeah.
It's just they aren't built. Pittsburgh was built in the 50s. The larger ones, some of the Westview ones were built in the 50s and 60s. It was to provide the resiliency, the backup. Hey, something happens at our other plant, power goes out 10 miles downriver, we got another plant that can pump water in the system and have a backup. There's a spill that happens between the two plants. The water's bad, we can't make it. Now we have two plants. So that's the whole idea. And it costs a lot of money, but people want to turn the faucet on and not worry about it.
The cost is worth it, to the people that you're servicing. Last two questions for you, John, just talking about the people within your region. It's a two-parter. So one, why is reliable water service a foundational component to public health? And also, speaking of public health, Westview Water Authority how does Westview Water Authority systems support hospitals, schools, emergency services?
I'll start with the second one. The hospitals, again, our system's sort of built where we don't want hospitals and schools and those things on dead-end lines. Everything is looped. It's kind of like the power grid. If the one transformer goes out, the power goes another way and gets your house the other way. We want hospitals and the public safety issues to have multiple connections. So unless the line breaks right in front of the hospital and that's probably their pipe, we're going to be able to get water around a different way. So that's how we make sure we have water to them at all times, whether it's multiple pumps, multiple connection points. Think of our system as a big loop. Everything connects in multiple places, and we have a number of ways to get water to where it needs to go. What was your first question?
Just the water services being a foundation to public health.
It's one of the reasons I stayed into I'm an engineer. I have a lot of engineer type qualities, which, being conservative on certain things. And water and wastewater, it's never going away. There's rises and falls in a lot of the other engineering fields, whether it's land development or whatever. Water and wastewater, we always need those facilities to grow. So it's a very safe field to get into. So that's why I liked it. But the other side is you need water to live. Somebody told me the other day, and I hadn't thought about it, but it's probably true. Adding chlorine to the water is probably the single most way of saving lives in the world in the last 1,000 years or more. Bad water killed people, lots of people for centuries and centuries. Yeah. Plagues, everything else, bad water, cholera, all those things. Now, if we have 2 people die of bad water, it's like a national emergency. And it's true, because the water and the chlorine that we're doing is keeping people alive. That's the key to our business. We providing a key resource for life. And the cleaner it is, we're getting it to your house. You're taking right through a tap. Nice and simple. It's so simple. A lot of things going into it, but it's a key to survival. So that's why it's a great field to get into. In 30 years, I've enjoyed everything I've been doing in this field for that 30 plus years. And now at the authority, it's a little bit more hands-on with the customers and the aspects instead of being a consultant.
I think it's a good motto to end this on, Westview Water Authority providing a clean resource for life. So, on that, John Balewski, thank you for your time. Really appreciate your insight. And, we look forward to making sure that people know the work that gets put into making sure their water goes out their faucet and leaves their toilet.
Thanks, Asa.
All right. Take care.